Maybe I pushed and then it went off.
Huh.
So, sorry. Okay, so we have today with us Donna Storing. She is a musician and also the creator of Listen for Life. So, Donna, I guess this is first time I meet you in person, so I have a lot to find out about you. So tell us what is Listen for Life about?
Listen for Life is, I'd like to say, a global movement
Yeah.
that is supported through an organization. So Listen for Life is the organization
In which way do
behind
you
the
support them?
movement. In every way, our mission of Listen for Life is to the musicians themselves
Okay.
around the globe, because I was artistic ambassador for both the UK and the USA at different times, traveling around the globe, meeting musicians that were sharing with me how difficult it is to, first of all, keep themselves and their families alive, but also to preserve their cultural musical traditions
Okay.
that go way back and are the holders of their cultural values and expression as a people. But if it's not something that is immediately interesting to the people that decide global media,
Mm-hmm.
they
Well,
don't have a chance to be on. So I founded Listen for Life 20 years ago in London, and it grew rapidly around the globe. And we're completely volunteer based. It's a global family of music listeners, music performers, teachers, creators, working together to restore the purpose and power of music in every community.
well, there's maybe Rashita is on your website then because that was his purpose. Because he makes a rhyme music with rock music, Arabic music, and he brought people together from all background through his music. He was Arabic, it was rock, American, it was rye, dance, modern, it was a mix. And it was also the classic sometime in the background. So when they interviewed him, he said that was the purpose of his music. It's a global, to put people together, whether they are from one religion or another. When they hear his music, they all dance, no matter where they come from. And he's a big star in France. I don't know if you heard about him, but he just on September 12th he just had a cardiac arrest. But he was the most. I mean, he was the best paid singer in the world. I mean, his net worth was like 228 million. He sold millions of copies of his albums. So he's not only he had a purpose, but also it was successful.
Right.
So if
Right.
he's able to do it, why do you think the others can't? Maybe their songs are not as good.
No, I don't think it's necessarily anything to do with that.
I mean, people buy what they like, right?
They can only buy what they like if it's available to be bought.
Ah, got it.
So a
So they,
lot
a
of
lot of
musicians need help
to f-
to record or film or make a
their first
video,
album.
Um, I believe, or we've discovered that many musicians around the planet have a true heart of service. They
Okay.
want to be able to give using their gifts,
Okay.
but they don't know how, or they don't have the opportunities to do so, or they don't have some of the skill sets needed, for example, to book a concert hall and publicize an event and market it and do all the other things that are involved.
Even though
So,
they are very talented,
yes,
they are.
especially when they're very talented. They have their focus on the music they are performing or memorizing or creating, and to do the other things is just beyond their focus at that point.
Okay.
And so part of the whole idea of Listen for Life is that our mission is to the musicians,
Mm-hmm.
So we help musicians around the globe who are master musicians in their genre, culture, instrument,
Okay.
to be involved in projects or performance opportunities that we create and give them the platform to then go and do it. So here in the San Francisco Bay Area, for
Yeah.
example, we are about to launch a new project later this month.
And what is it
And that's
called?
called Notes for Nourishment.
Wow.
And we've done this project in many other cities around the globe,
So you get
but
people
we
to
haven't done it in
musicians
San
together?
Francisco. Well, what we do is once a month, there will be, once we have a venue that has offered us the venue. So in this case, the venue that's approached us about coming to San Francisco is Mission Dolores Basilica.
Oh,
And so that seats about 900 people.
wow.
And it's beautiful acoustic, really
Yes,
wonderful.
Yes, it's beautiful.
So once a month,
You're going to be there?
yes, I host the concerts. And what we do is because I travel around the globe doing concerts myself, I get to know many of the musicians. So it kind of starts out with being my friends. I contact them and say, if you are performing in the U.S. And you would be like to be donating a performance for a cause or a nonprofit that needs your help,
Yeah.
then come on this series. So what happens is we have nationally or internationally known artists who donate their time and talent to perform a free concert for everyone to be able to come.
Wow.
And then at the door, we have baskets where we take donations
Okay.
for
For
a
the
nonprofit. No, for a
No.
nonprofit
Oh,
that
Oh.
nourishes
musicians.
the homeless, hungry, or hurting in their community.
Okay.
So it might be any kind of nonprofit here in San Francisco.
Okay.
And the musician that comes that particular month can say, I want the donations made at my concert to go to this or to
okay,
that.
okay.
So it gives the musicians
Maybe
the
part
chance.
of the money?
No,
How they going to get paid?
they don't. They're donating.
They're donating, but how do they
Completely.
live? They need to eat? No.
Well, we feed them and house them if they're traveling. And, we only have musicians come that are here in the area on
Okay.
tour anyway. So we're not bringing them from somewhere. It's while they're here. And,
But it's still, they
It's-
need some pay to live, no? I mean,
well, these are musicians who are
paid.
in their other concerts.
Oh, okay.
They're very well known internationally musicians.
Oh,
And
okay.
so
They're not just people
they
who
are-
trying to get, no,
No, this particular
group.
project, Notes for Nourishment,
It's for known.
is to help musicians who will attract an audience because they are known, and most people who would love to hear them in person would never be able to afford to hear them in person. And so, but the musicians don't have time or skill sets to book and organize and market and promote this concert
you do
themselves.
that?
We do everything for them.
Oh, you heard of
Yes.
Stone Grove? It's the same concept. I mean, Stone Grove, you give a donation at the park. There's 10 concerts in the park every year at Stone Grove, and it's free to get in. And that's where I taped that musician Hashita when he came in 2008. So, but he was paid by
It's a
Stone Grove.
completely different model.
Yeah.
Our project is
Yeah.
doing this to help the nonprofits to raise funds
Okay.
for their causes. So it might be for the Hurricane Florence
It's a different model,
victims.
totally.
It might be for a food bank here in San Francisco.
Okay, so it's a totally different part. The money collected by the donation at Stone Grove go to the musicians. But anyway, yeah, you're right. It's a different model.
We
But-
have other projects within Listen for Life
Yeah.
that raise funds for the musicians.
Oh, okay. That's
So-
for those who are not famous yet.
Yes, and if they
Something-
are doing a particular project where they need funds to do it,
Okay.
whether it's something, for example, this summer we funded musicians
Yeah.
to go help bring music, healing, and education programs
Yeah.
to the children in refugee camps in Tunisia, Lebanon, and the West Bank.
Oh, that's nice of you. Yeah.
So, well, it's nice of the musicians to want to do that. So, like I said, our mission is to musicians worldwide who want to be using their gifts with a heart of service, but can't figure out or manage to do that themselves.
Okay.
And my eventual goal
Yeah.
through all of the projects is that people anywhere will meet these musicians, hear the special quality in their music, because we believe that if you're a musician performing with a heart of service, what you share emotionally and spiritually to nourish your listeners is going to come across in a more easily connective way than if you are purely performing because that's your paid job for the night. Does that make sense? So we want to eventually all together raise the awareness of music listeners, which is 98% of the population of the globe, right? Everybody listens to music of some kind.
Okay.
That it's possible to have a world where the musicians are the influencers of the society, not the politicians, not just the educators, not the celebrities, not...
As a matter of fact, this week they had 3,000 musicians and singers get together in the Middle East, the Palestinian and the Jews, and they got together and they sang together for an hour for peace. And
Thank
it was
goodness.
recorded and it will be then distributed. But that's also using music for good purpose.
Absolutely. That's exactly what we do, yes.
Yeah, but they did a lot of people. They did 3,000 of them.
That's fantastic.
I don't know how they got them together, but they did it. I saw it online. It was beautiful.
Well, that's good to know about.
That's the idea. Maybe the organizer has the same idea as you. I mean,
You'll have to track them down.
Music for purpose, right?
Well, and there's, with the whole UN, there's a UN International Day of Peace.
Yeah.
And so the UN has contacted me many times and asked me to speak to UN-based organizations on the use of music for peace building. Okay. So we have many different programs within Listen for Life that are peace building initiatives like that, where we bring musicians together from, for example, at Carnegie Hall, we had musicians from all of the different Middle East countries together on stage, and on UN Peace Day. So it wasn't on Peace Day.
So it's always for peace, apparently.
Well, not always, but
No,
that's the most important thing we all need to think about, isn't it?
Yeah,
And
music for peace, yeah.
if
So
you know, what better tool for peace building than music, right?
but do you usually book people when you like their music, or it could be any cultural music? I mean, the people who are listening, first of all, gotta connect with the music, but if a music is not as popular, you still bring them in, right?
Yes, we focus on the music styles and musicians that don't get global airplay on pop media, and we don't deal with the kinds of music that are already the most popular. So what we call it is classical music of all cultures.
Okay.
So I happen to be a European classical musician, right? But most of what we have is not Mozart or Bach or Chopin. It's the classical music from Lebanon or Morocco or India or China or anywhere, that these musicians have a huge following in their genre, but we're trying to get other people who know they love music to listen to other things. So one of the projects we've done through Listen for Life is we ended up producing an award-winning series for television and internet called Travels with Music.
Oh, you are the producer.
So,
Oh, you produced that, and is it like a half an hour program?
It's a series of 15, 30-minute segments, and
Okay.
it's been shown on the BBC and networks in different countries, but it's also now just on internet. You can get it through the website. So it's just travelswithmusic.com.
Travels
With an S,
travels with
travelswithmusic.com.
.com.
And it's a way of experiencing all of the cultures, because we're adding more as we go, all of the cultures of the world without needing a passport. The only passport you need is music.
Oh, okay. And I'm
And
sure that governments facilitate the travel of these musicians.
no,
No?
no.
They still have to go through the same.
Well, we do the travel, and
Oh, you go there.
so
Okay.
some of the time, and so, some of the time, my crews go to wherever we've made arrangements with, and they
Oh.
film and interview the musicians. So what I call it is a way to travel to these countries and experience the countries and the cultures with the musicians as the tour guides. So the musicians take us through their market and their house and their whatever, and we talk to them about what it's like being a musician in their culture, what it's like for them spiritually, what values are they trying to portray in their practice time. Some of the answers that we've had in the different places where there is huge hardship, being allowed to be a musician, surviving, for example, as a female in Pakistan, for example, as a female singer, Sufi singer, this was not even allowed when this person we were interviewing started out. She had to sneak out of the house and hide behind a wall and listen and memorize these songs until one day she just got really brave and burst out, during the middle of the night and ran into this place that was all men and started singing. And she could have been stoned or killed right then and there.
But they didn't do anything.
No. They were so taken aback, they just kind of froze. And now she gets to teach music, writing and reading, notation, singing to girls in Pakistan, which this never would have happened if she hadn't done this.
Oh.
So she's one of the tour guides into the different music cultures on
Oh,
this
that's
series.
good. That's good. Maybe her personality brought
Oh.
those men to peace, or to accept that the woman is doing it, something like that, because they would have accepted more that from a man because they want.
Well, women weren't allowed out of the house
Yeah,
when she did
that's-
this. So,
they're
on their
pretty-
own.
pretty
So
oppressed.
she really could have been in a whole lot of trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because governing by oppressing is not government. I mean, but some governments are like that. They think that governing means you oppress certain people.
Well, many of the musicians that we interview around the globe have gone through tremendous challenges
Yeah,
and obstacles and hardships
yeah,
to be able to share their music, but to be able to stay alive as a musician. And that's what gives them such power
yeah.
and character to be
Yeah.
an influencer. And so people talk about ideas, whether it's for a company or a product. And I think we as musicians are social entrepreneurs, but we're catalysts. And so for me, I'm trying to get people to ask themselves, what would the world be like if instead of turning on the news, say, and hearing different political people debate something, or the
Report on the
reporters
crime. Yeah.
or educators or people be, interviewed about their thoughts
Why
or
not-
leading.
why not with
Why
music?
not have musicians who have spent their whole lives trying to do something against all odds and whose purpose is through their music to preserve a culture, preserve values, and they've grown in the process of doing that.
Give them airtime.
Give them the voice and let them be the influencers of the next generation. What would the world look like if the musicians were aware of their power and responsibility
Yeah.
in what they played or sang or created and in what they said, but of their purpose not as a celebrity, but as an influencer for the good? spiritually. I think the world would be a very different place
Yeah.
because no matter how we define spirituality, we all agree that music is a conveyor of whatever that is. It's
You,
got a power that's
it,
not
it's
direct.
international communication. There is no language to it, right?
Hmm.
I mean, it's,
That's right.
but yeah, just your. I just remember during the revolution in some African countries, the first thing they did is kill all the people who had the talent because that was like, like
Yep.
it was threatening to them that someone would rise above the powers. So that's the first thing they did. That they get rid of all anybody with any talent. So that's very regrettable.
That's a very strong point. That's a
Yeah,
very important point to
because they
make.
don't want someone better than them or more talented than them to rule. So that's like extreme, extreme government. But some people are afraid to even express themselves. You never know. Maybe somebody's going to show up at their door and take them to the
That's right.
prison. Correct.
Right.
You never know what the chief is going to say. So anyway, so your job here then is to bring them. Are you going to bring the first one at Dolores?
Oh, for here in San Francisco? Okay, so the Notes for Nourishment, which
Yeah.
you can keep track of that as well. It's right now it's a blog, so I think it's notesfornourishment.blogspot.com,
Yeah.
and also on Facebook and whatever. The first one in the San Francisco will be September 30th
Yeah.
at 4 p.m., which is
So
a
that's
Sunday
very, very
afternoon.
soon.
And yeah,
I
really,
love
really
Dolores
soon.
Park. I go there a lot.
Not Dolores Park, but Mission Dolores. But yes,
Mission
right off.
Dolores is right
Exactly.
next to it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And this particular concert, so these are free 1 hour concerts performed by internationally known artists.
Yeah.
And the one September 30th is by a group called 7 Degrees.
Yeah.
And it's Andalusian music.
Okay. And you say it's free.
Mm-hmm.
And what time?
4 o'clock.
4 p.m. That's perfect because it's still light and
And it's a Sunday afternoon,
Yeah.
and people can go to the park before or after, and there's lots of cafes around there.
yeah, especially that Stern Grove is over now, so they'll have a different Stern Grove at that venue.
Well, we hope they consider it that way.
Yeah,
And
I
so
think that would be good.
Yeah,
Uh,
one Sunday a month, not a particular Sunday. It's not like the third Sunday or everything, but
Depending on the
once a month.
availability.
Yes. So we have all the concerts planned out for the 2018-2019 season,
Really?
and we have artists from all over the world coming.
Wow. So you one a month.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yes, so we
That's
want to
awesome.
get people to come to this first one and get the series started. So if there are listeners, viewers in the San Francisco Bay Area, please come
They
and support
can come
this.
in.
And the benefit each month we have a different beneficiary, and this particular month's beneficiary is the program called Rhythm for Refugees, which is a project of Listen for Life, but the musicians just happened to pick that they wanted the funds to go to that. Rhythm for Refugees is the project within Listen for Life that supports the music healing and education projects going on right now in refugee camps.
Oh,
So we're starting with these 3 that we're currently in, and we're expanding. We have invitations from refugee camps all over the world.
Videotaping allowed, or I mean, if one day I'm free and I want to tape it, I can tape it.
For the concerts? Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And we're probably going to run this one on Facebook Live as well. So
there'll
people
be
can
a couple
donate
camera.
through Facebook, we hope.
Yeah.
And we can help the refugees get music healing, which is incredibly important for refugees.
Oh.
It makes a huge difference for them.
Okay.
After the Bosnian War, way back in the end of the 90s, early 90s, middle 90s, we were responsible for co-developing a mobile music therapy unit that went to all the refugee camps in Bosnia, Croatia, that whole region, because you had young children who'd been born during the conflict that were so traumatized that they could not speak. And this was years later. So they found that if they brought this sort of van with music instruments to the camps, so one day at each camp,
Yeah.
the children could be brought that had issues could be brought in one at a time in a safe environment, and they would use these instruments and singing of songs that they had heard from before or during the war
To help those kids.
to help them open up
Okay.
and go back and release the
Oh.
things that had happened. And they had a 98% success rate, so that after doing this for a year or two, they were all speaking and back to being in the group and feeling able to communicate.
Oh yeah, yeah. Even in schools nowadays, they use music for kids who don't want to talk or anything like that.
Right,
So
exactly.
they put a little musician there to open up a little bit,
We-
relax those kids,
That's
and
right.
then they heal. And
That's exactly right.
That's what they do now in some classrooms, and it works, or else they wouldn't keep doing it. But
That's right.
That's the idea, right?
That is the idea. And
Yeah,
so part of what we want to do is get more, if there are any, potential volunteers viewing this or potential listeners, or musicians that want to get involved in these exact kinds of projects that you were mentioning, from any kind of music healing, whether it's in a classroom or a refugee camp or anything in between. We do music in hospitals, music in prisons. We do all kinds of projects that bring the healing power of music to the individuals who need that.
Yeah.
And it might be entire communities that need that. So we have found that with the Notes for Nourishment concerts, for example, we're nourishing the audience who comes through the music, right? And then their donations go to nonprofits that nourish the hungry, homeless, and hurting in their community. And that's why we called the series Notes for Nourishment. But we have found that a side benefit to this whole thing is that it brings together a whole new community, because you have people from all different demographics from a far distance away that want to hear this particular performer or group.
That's good.
That come together, and then they come back the next month, then they come back the next month, and they start being friends with each other. So all the other cities where we have done this series, we have found that the cities really appreciate it and find that a whole new community sprouts up.
We do have a refugee group in Oakland. I remember they did the fundraiser for the mothers, like diapers and stuff like that. And so we do have it right here in the Bay Area.
I would like to know because we
Where they
have
are?
done that to fund Bay Area refugee groups. We have
Oh.
done concerts to do that.
Okay.
But I always want to know. So
the
it might
other
be
one.
one that I don't know about. So
Okay.
yeah, let me know. Send me
I
a
will.
note.
Okay. So
Yeah.
thank you very much. It's very informative, and music is used everywhere for healing, so that's good.
There are so many different professions
Yeah.
one can do as a musician.
Yeah.
So many, whether it's education or production or performance or composition and creation that way. There's so many different ones, but part of the challenge for people that do career counseling is a lot of times the students who go into a college or university or a conservatory for music, they only see being a performer. I want to be famous or nothing, right?
Oh, okay.
They're saying, they think in their minds that they're going to be the next celebrity, whatever. And the challenge for the counselors is to get them to see the opportunities. And a lot of times the counselors are not aware of how many different ways music can be of tremendous service to the community and to the world.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. In memory of Rashida, who just passed, I remember his interview in in the newspaper where he said the interviewer asked him, "Why do you like so much to perform in music?" And he says, "Better for me than taking a pill, like to calm me down." So for him, just for him personally, it was therapeutic. He would perform, and he all of a sudden felt better. And he said instead of being depressed and I pop a couple pills or something, I would just go and make people happy by singing. So it's too bad that he's gone so young, but anyway, that's life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway,
Yeah.
keep up the good work. What can I say? I'll look forward then to September 30th at
Please come.
yeah,
Yeah.
Dolores Basilica at 4 p.m. Doors open probably at 3:30 or something.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Great.